Hi, everybody. This is Ray Wang. I'm live here from the AWS reInvent show. And of course, we're doing DisrupTV. You're in the green room. And what that means is we're going to introduce our guests in reverse order, ask them where they're coming in from, and more importantly, what they're going to talk about today in a very, very quick order. And of course, we'll kick off to the show. Here with my amazing co-host, Vala Afshar, internationally renowned speaker, author, and of course, the chief digital evangelist at Salesforce, and our amazing producer, Elle, which keeps everything running. She keeps us on time and, of course, in check. So more importantly. So let's start with Stephan. Where are you coming in from? What are we talking about today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm calling in from New York City. I'm at Columbia Business School, and we're going to talk later. My new book, The Employee Advantage. Thanks for having me.
It is super important. And George, welcome to the show. And of course,
Thank
where are
you
you coming in from and what are we talking about today?
Well, I'm coming from our home in Hobe Sound, Florida, and talking about a book I've written recently, blessedly short, on being a leader.
Very cool. And leadership is not about a title, I think I remember seeing somewhere.
Right.
All right. Well, with that, let's kick it off. All yours, Al. Let's go for the count.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to send us questions live on X using hashtag DisrupTV, and we'll do our best to answer them in the next hour. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He is the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV just about every day. Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, CNBC, Bloomberg. In my humble opinion, Ray is one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot, Vala. I'm blessed to be here with Vala, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Boundless, A New Mindset for Unlimited Business Success, and a #1 seller on Amazon. Executives around the world pay attention to every one of his inspirational and, more importantly, insightful tweets. When he's not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you see on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg, ABC, and more importantly, posting insightful analyses on ZDNet. But it's not about us. And of course, it's always about our amazing guests. Who do we have to kick it off today?
It's an honor and a privilege for us to have George Conrades, former CEO, chairman of Akamai, and author of On Being a Leader. What an exceptional book. George is a respected leader with over 60 years of experience in technology and business. George began his career at IBM, where he quickly grew into senior management roles across the US and Asia Pacific. George then later became CEO of IBM Technologies, a pioneer in development of the internet, and went on to lead Akamai Technologies as CEO and chairman, guiding its growth into a global leader in content delivery and cybersecurity. George is the author of On Being a Leader, a book emphasizing the principles of intentional leadership, active listening, and kindness, with proceeds supporting STEM education through the Akamai Foundation. George currently serves on the board of Oracle and has previously served on boards of companies like Harley-Davidson and others. Welcome, George, to DisrupTV.
Thank you, Vala. I'm delighted to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all. And by the way, on that intro, a real pioneer is Vince Cerf. I saw him go by. He's terrific. Yeah,
We've-
he was
we've-
one of the originals, that set up the helped set up the ARPANET with TCP/IP.
I mean, we've had Vince on our show, Dr. Surf on our show several times, and what an amazing individual! What just stunning and incredibly pioneer even today. So
Yeah, he is.
so he's incredible.
He's amazing. I mean, we went to his 80th birthday for the 80th time, I guess, or 8th time. We're not even sure, but it was fun, and it was just like a walk down memory lane. But but he came into work, and that's the most important part. And your book talks about, why did you come to work today? Vin comes to work all the time, but
Right.
how does answering that question set the foundation for effective leadership? Why is that the beginning point when you start out your book?
Well, the idea here is that to be a leader is not your title. It's not something that where you lord it over anyone or something like that. It's more about the individual being a leader, and what is the individual's purpose, and why did you come to work? Are you there to contribute, to work with others as a team, to make a difference? And you too, by your actions and your intent, can be a leader. And what if everyone in the firm acted that way, with their various skills and capabilities and knowledge and ambitions? But what if everybody practiced being a leader? What a powerful contribution that would be to the success of an organization.
That's amazing. And you, sir, have had an extraordinary career leading some of the most important technology companies that shape our lives and business models today. And you've witnessed tech revolutions, again, from IBM to BNN to, of course, Akamai. And now you serve on the board of Oracle, again, guiding some of the titans of the industry in terms of tech. What leadership traits are critical when you're navigating technology and driving the next big innovation? And you certainly have led massive innovation waves in throughout your career.
Well, clearly, if it's a transformation, you ought to have in mind that it's going to take longer than you thought. But it's important to set clear goals and to follow up on the activities in attempting to achieve those goals. Lots of communication, lots of listening. You learn through the how things are going, really through the listening and being curious and asking questions, especially then assigning responsibilities and holding people accountable to meet their commitments. That's extremely important part of leading a transformation. And I would say that one thing to keep in mind as a leader is don't expect what you don't inspect. In other words, don't just assume that things are going to happen the way you thought they would. So that means lots of listening, lots of communication, lots of questioning about the how. How is it? What's working? What's not working? Why isn't it working? Where are assumptions wrong? It's okay. I mean, that's how we're all learning, and do that in the group context, because today team as a group is required, because you need multiple skills, multiple experience, multiple effort to achieve almost anything in today's fast-paced, high-tech, complex world. So you have to have the whole team around the table, and they got to be open and honest with one another.
That's a great point, right? And part of it is really creating that right team and figuring out what great leaders are and how to bring those teams together, right? What do you do to help people balance, strong individual contributor gets the job done on their own, and someone has to step back and coach? And speaking about coaches, you bring up Abala's favorite coach in the world, Belichick, who says, do your job. Right, in this mix, right? Sorry, Vala, I had to plug that in for you. But you get the idea that, there's more to this, right? This is an art, or is it a science, or it's both? How do you view this?
Well, that's a great question, and it's about the whole book in a way. But I said that there are three fundamentals to this book, and then try to explore each one. But taking off on the Belichick point, it is that everybody there has to do their job. First and foremost, you got to perform and do your job, but especially work hard at improvement. All the professional teams do. They watch the videos. They look at how they could have done differently, accomplished something differently on each play. and with their teammates, working with their teammates. How could they have achieved something better? You could take any professional team, and what I'm saying applies, and then making sure that everybody is working together to try to improve and communicate. I don't know if you've noticed any of these post-game interviews right now. We're in NFL season, where everybody talks about how much they love one another, what a great team it is, how much they're communicating with one another, and which is the essence of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can see whether it's the Detroit Lions or, all the teams that seem to have the best records have definitely a narrative around team. And as a Bostonian, growing up in the East Coast, the Bird McHale Parish chemistry, the Ortiz chemistry, and of course the 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots. And by the way, anyone who's watching who's not from New England, I'm sorry. I know you're tuning me out right now. but
that kid's gonna make it. That Drake Mayo is gonna make it.
Yeah. So it's we hear chemistry, and in business it's chemistry, it's culture. Akamai's got an amazing culture, amazing innovative companies. There's 7 core values that you listed in your book in terms of culture, customer first, one Akamai, innovation, urgency and persistence, inclusion, integrity, trust, and giving back. There's definitely a giving back. There's definitely a philanthropic part of the DNA of Akamai. So the success of Akamai, again, being Bostonian and watching its inception from they didn't call it a hackathon, but a competition at MIT. It's amazing to see the birth of this company and its success, but it's rooted in its culture and its values. So, as a leader who saw the hyper growth of Akamai, how did you create and sustain that culture that not only supports innovation, which means you have to be deliberate, you have to be tough-minded, you have to get on the bus, off the bus, and make some difficult decisions, but also have that inclusion where people, they don't just have a sense of belonging, they have a sense of mattering. How did you do that? How did you do that? Because that's extraordinary.
No, inclusion is extremely important. The other 2 principles in the book are helping others and being kind. Someone asked me once, what does it take to be a great leader? And I said, be a good person.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, if you're a good person, you're going to start to engender followership. You're going to be create an environment in which you're open, likely humble, asking for help even, and encouraging others to be the same way. When we look at the surveys in Akamai, people cite as their number 1 reason for their employee satisfaction is the help they get from other employees. Wow. To me, that's a delight. That's what we wanted to create. We didn't want to, I grew up 31 years in IBM, and toward the end, I think IBM got a little stilted. It got a little siloed. It got a little hierarchical. It got a little vicious inside, really, as things didn't go so well. And so when we created Akamai, I had this idea that we never want something like that to happen. Wow. But the only way that you can keep from being so stultified, if you will, is to have an environment where people are open, they're transparent, they're free to be vulnerable, to be open, have the confidence to be vulnerable, to be humble, and ask one another for help and give help, and in that way, apply the grease that helps teams accomplish their mission.
Asking for help is so important, but I reflect on my career and I wish I raised my hand more often. I always, being an immigrant and thinking about just stay with the problem longer and you'll find a way. And honestly, if I could do a do-over, I would have the courage to raise my hand, because there were times where I was definitely stuck and, my ego got in the way, and it would have been better for the team and the company had I just said, I'm sorry, I don't know next step. So that's awesome to have that culture.
Well, we also put an emphasis on, we did an interesting exercise when we started the business. The two founders, Tom Layton, the professor from MIT, and Danny Lewin, the graduate student from MIT, who they wrote the fundamental algorithms that eliminated the worldwide wait back in the 1996, 97, 98, 99, just as the internet was transitioning to much more business use, and so the demand was stalling out. But we set down some principles as a team exercise, which is things we thought, well, what will we always do? And of course, focus on the customer and excellent service, respect for the individual. Those kind of things were at the top of the list. And then we tried an interesting one. Well, what things will we never do? And the first one at the top of the list was never dismiss. We worked on this a bit. We hacked the sentence around a bit, but never dismiss an idea from any source without due consideration. And the idea there is there are people around the table who, for a variety of reasons, Vala, you mentioned, well, I wish I'd put up my hand. Others are afraid to put up their hand or ignored. And the idea there is if someone says something, if somebody volunteers something, is to pick up on it. If you're kind of chairing that session, pick up on that right away and bring that to the fore. Never dismiss it out of the mouth of babes. Sometimes somebody with a different background, different experience will just say, well, why? I don't understand why that is. Why don't you just do this? And everybody goes, oh my God, there's a good idea.
No, that's the best.
But also it's a form of being inclusive. And there are a variety of reasons why people in the room are not included. Often this happens with females. And I think we're getting over that, thankfully. But, historically, that's been true. They get talked over or whatever. And a good lead, and the person chairing the meeting, everybody should be a leader, but the person chairing the meeting should pick up on that and say, hey, wait a minute now. So-and-so, I think you have a comment you want to make, or the comment you just made is really important. Let's explore that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Akamai takes it even a step further. Your CMO, your CIO, there's some of the brightest women in the tech industry. So not only you're inclusive, but you're smart to know that some of the best leaders in the world are women. So congrats.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, well, of course, including my spouse, but
yeah, that's
part of this leadership piece is an area that you talk about around resiliency. And I think that's really important, right? When you think about the company when founded, right? Akamai, I think the word is in Hawaiian for intelligent, clever, and cool, right? Yeah. That's part of it.
Right.
But I mean, think about this. This was Cambridge's hottest stock, right? You came out at $26 and you ended at $327 by the end of the year, and you came back down to $4, right? In the middle of the .com crash.
Yeah,
and that was
stunning.
Ridiculous.
That's more volatile than Bitcoin.
Yeah. And then the convertible came through and we're just like, holy crap, they pulled this thing off. And I remember sitting there because I had 8 tombstones in the Wall Street Journal ready to go public on March 2000. And we bombed, right? At Personify. We had 500 million in valuation and we just did not go out. There was just no way we were going to go out. And we're funded $1 million a week. And that was just done. We were done. How do you build that kind of resiliency and perseverance, especially when you're in that type of crisis? I mean, this is nothing that, anybody would have expected or know how to get out of.
Yeah, those .coms had failed business models, and that caused our initial early revenues to decline dramatically. By the way, on that end of the year, the stock price, 340 some, company was worth $34 billion. And we had about 6 million in revenue and had lost maybe 90 million that year. That's a bubble. And so that was bound to come down. But when the .com failed and our revenue then started to decline, we did get a convertible. It just squeezed one off in a, just as you pointed out, Ray, very short window we had to get the necessary cash to continue.
That was the most brilliant convertible ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not that I study convertible bonds, but I mean,
Well, that was done by Jill Greenthal, who we then put on the board.
yeah, but then followed by the year later on September 11th, Lewin is on AA 11. What the heck? I mean,
well, that's
smack
a
on
toughie.
September 11th. I mean, you guys went through a lot.
Well, the thing you have to do is you can't hide.
Yeah.
You have to get in front of the people, town hall after town hall after town hall, all around the world, wherever they are.
Talk it out.
Just face them. Just, be open, be transparent, tell them the facts. One of the things, though, that during that .com crash, and our cash was declining, and I say in the book about some of the engineers were plotting our cash balance as it was declining, and one fellow had time to die on the top of his chart. I went by his cubicle and I said, "You're killing me." Any event, the thing we did was we had these town halls, and our company was founded on a really big idea, which was to make the internet feasible for business, to end the worldwide wait. It's a big idea. So I would go to these town halls and say, well, first of all, do you still believe, okay, the financial thing looks awful right now, although we can see with some of the negative lines, they're starting to improve. But more important is your attitude. So do you still believe we have a big idea to make the internet feasible for business, to make it fast, reliable, secure? People would nod. Okay, that's a big idea. Now, do we have the technology to fulfill that vision? Does it work? And it did. It does. And we'd say, well, it does work. So, if you've got a good purpose, a good mission, and the technology supports it, there's only one other thing. I said, look to your left, look to your right. Do you like that person sitting next to you? And sometimes, I would point out some guy sitting next to someone else. I say, not so fast, Charlie. But anyway, do you like your fellow workers? You like the people that on your team? Do you like the people you come to work with? Well, if we have all these three things, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. And then tenacity. You can never give up. Not ever give up. Don't yield. Just keep at it and keep communicating. Keep open and keep communicating. Often, not big success, small successes, small milestones. Talk about them. Keep those in front of the folks so that they know that progress is being made. And so it's communication. And of course, then a lot of listening in other groups, not so much town halls, because it's hard to get good information out of Q&As from an audience as opposed to a team meeting, but listening to your team about what's working, what's not working, why isn't it working? What are we learning from this? How fast can we adjust when we find something that needs a fix immediately? We had a thing called Customers Network Technology, a virtuous circle, and we would measure, okay, how many new customers are we getting and who's in charge of that? How many more servers did we put in? How many networks? Thousands of ISPs out there. And who's in charge of that? And then what's our latest performance software improvement? How can we do better? How can we make it faster? What release of software are we on? And more reliable and more secure. What release are we on? Well, how about bot management? And just customers network technology, and keep reviewing that and holding people accountable for their roles in making that virtuous circle spin faster and faster. And that's how you get through it. It's just tenacity. You just keep working at it.
It sounds like running a business like a professional sports team. Everyone's accountable. You're keeping score. You're measuring success. In your book, you say listening is at the heart of helping others. So clearly a listening culture. I love how you summarize the big takeaways of the book. But, by the way, every business leader should have this book on their desk. Great leaders set clear goals. Great leaders suffer and celebrate with their teams. Great leaders hold people accountable. Great leaders embrace conflict, and great leaders engender trust. There's a number of, again, wisdom nuggets on every page. But the thing that comes out in every chapter is this reminder of kindness in terms of what, again, you said if you're a good person, you can potentially be a good leader. Can you teach, George, can you teach kindness?
Like, well, just be kind. Yeah, you can. By being kind, you can teach it by, because everybody's watching you all the time. Everybody's watching each other. Take the opposite of kindness. Unkind words, unkind actions, unkind in any way you can think of it. It makes a toxic environment. It's crazy to be unkind. Yeah. So you should be unkind, but not everybody is. Not everybody. You should be kind. Everybody is not. Doesn't necessarily think of it that way, but you have to think twice about kindness, especially if there's in conflict. You should embrace it, but in a way, clarity is being kind. And in another context, being kind is bringing someone along when there's a problem and trying to help them with what may be the problem. But as I pointed out, it's also kindness to ask them to get off the team because it's the other people are anxious for you to have done that. If you're the leader over something where you have the authority to do that, where you get somebody off the bus, as James Collins said in Good to Great.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you this, but I have a privilege of working with executives at Akamai. And when they describe you as one of the kindest sponsor and mentor that they have. So your legacy speaks to all the words that you were kind enough to share with the rest of us. So thank you for that.
Well, you're very kind. Well, when we started out, I was age 60 when I'm 85 now. I was age 60 when they asked me if I'd be the first CEO. And I realized that my age at 60 was twice about the average age of those youngsters in the business. And some people say, well, parental guidance. It wasn't that at all. It was, you've been around so long. Why not be kind? Why not try to help these guys enjoy their dream? They're the ones that are going to build the business. They're going to inherit the business. There's a motivation there to want to help, to want to teach, to help them to learn.
Thank you, sir.
Well, with this level of expertise and coming into 2025, brand new administration, massive chaos, wars in the front, new technologies and pioneering stuff like AI and quantum on the other end, different changes in leadership, lots of 55-year-olds at the top of their career losing their jobs, lots of 20-year-olds trying to find jobs, unable to find them. What guiding principles or advice would you offer to inspire leaders in the coming year?
Well, don't get sucked into the vortex of the echo chamber and all that. Stay on mission. Stay on point. What are your goals? What is your purpose? What are you trying to do? Stick with it. Be tenacious about that. Things are never as good as they seem, nor are they as bad as you think so. Keep your people close. Communicate. Listen. Care. They know if you care. And lots of praise for contribution. Not just you did not just nice job, but what you did, that contribution you made, here's how it helped your team. Here's how it helped the business. But again, just be tenacious in these times. Stay on point. Stay on the mission. And don't get caught up in all the other stuff that the social media in particular can distract you with.
Terrific advice.
Amazing advice. We're here with George Conrades, ex-CEO of Akamai and board member at Oracle, and more importantly, an inspirational leader. So thank you so much for being here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Wow. Leadership nuggets. I mean, I hope when we're 84 that we can actually provide that level of succinctness and inspiration at the same time. Like, I can't even do that now.
I would work for George right now.
I want to work for George. I don't know what he's working on. We should chat with him later.
What an incredible segue, because our next guest is all about employee advantage and how businesses can thrive and grow if they had the right attitude and focus. Stephan Meier, author of Employee Advantage, How Putting Workers First Helps Business Thrive. Stephan is currently the chair of the management division and the James P. Gorman Professor of Business at Columbia Business School. George holds a PhD in economics from the University of Zurich, was previously a senior economist at the Center for Behavioral Economics and Decision-Making at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, and taught courses on strategic interactions and economic policy at Harvard University and University of Zurich. Stephan's research interest is in behavioral strategy. He investigates the impact of psychology and economics on human decisions making and its implication for public policy and firms' strategy. Stephan's work has been published in leading academic journals, including American Economic Review and Management Science, and he's been profiled by the press in The Economist, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, New York Times, and many more. I had to cut his bio short because we only have 20 minutes. You can follow Stephan on X at MEIER_Steph, STEPH. Welcome, Stephan, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much, Ray and Vala. And note to myself, I should never follow George in a podcast again. I mean, how to top that? So it can only go downhill from here.
Have him speak at one of your classes. That'd be like,
you have big shoes. You have big shoes to fill, but we're sure you will.
And you're right, Ray. I should invite George to come to Columbia.
Well, we'll see him in the green room later. Maybe if he's still there, we'll invite him. But this concept of employee advantage is so important, right, to organizational success. You start out the book by talking about, and I'm at the Amazon reInvent conference here, right? So it's so perfect. Like that customer obsession that Amazon has, right, from working backwards. And then you're like, wait, what about the employee obsession? Because there are now customers too. And so you start with this, talking about this. Why do you think it's so important in today's competitive market?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I mean, it's actually a good segue because we talked with George a little bit about customer centricity and technology, and that's now at the forefront of everything. And I actually want to turn the page and think, no, let's think about the employees somehow.
And in an AI world, right?
Yes, in an AI world, and we're hopefully going to talk about this as well, because I think we're over-indexing a lot on the technology piece, and somehow forgetting there are humans when we think human-machine interaction or when we try to implement technology. And what I mean when I talk about the employee advantage, I actually mean two advantages. It has two meanings in my view. One is that I think employees are gaining some advantage as customers did in the past, when we moved from product centricity to employee centricity, and there are reasons for that shift, why customers gained kind of power in that relationship. And I think employees are next. And the second is that the employees actually creating a competitive advantage in an industry if we take care of them in the same way that we do with customers. And you obviously know the best, just saying we care about customers, is not enough to be customer centric. Although every CEO, every executive says that. And the same with employees. Everybody says, our employee matter and whatever. That's just not enough. That's not cutting it to really do, to gain what I try to explain, like gains that competitive employee advantage.
When you're trying to motivate your students to be employee centric, or when you're advising boards or CEOs, what does that journey look like? How do you motivate them to foster an environment where employee centricity is part of their core values and guiding principles?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. And it often doesn't take that much. When I ask them, and I teach on the future of work as well, and then I ask, what is like a big problem that you're having right now, and there's like, how to automation, how to think about human machine interaction, but motivating employees is often on top of that list. Now it comes in different forms. Some say like, kids these days, that's like a version of it's hard to motivate the new workers, and we need to understand how do they tick, and like how can we actually get them engaged or not. The other is like, I remind my executives that I teach about like engagement surveys, that Gallup puts out engagement surveys, and there are obviously really good companies out there, but on average we're doing a terrible job. So if we are really thinking, or the executives, and I push them, is like, if you're really thinking you're employee centric or you care about employees, either you're lying, you don't care, or you don't know what to actually do that. And that then often follows with another, what I think, myth, is that people are only motivated by money. Because then I often hear, kids these days, and they will jump ship for $1,000, and like loyalty goes down the drain. And back in our days, we will like stick with the company forever. And I tried to change their mind about, first of all, kids these days is as old as their kids. I actually showed them a quote from a Greek philosopher who complained about kids these days. I mean, kids back then, and I tell them, look, I mean, what definitely did change is the environment. Like careers look very different nowadays. That's true. Back in the days, 20, 30 years ago, you made a career by sticking within a firm. You climbed the corporate ladder. Yeah. Now, even if you were unhappy, you had to stick in that bank, because that's like the way to, and now you don't. And so people have now options. And I think that leads now to, we have to be much more employee-centric in the same way that we care about our customers, in the same way we now ask the customer. It was interesting when George talked about listening. It's a really important part. Like, if you think about, if you would ask an executive and marketing executive, is it a great idea to ask your customer once a year how they're doing? They would like laugh their asses off. They was like, of course not. We were like, constant feedback. We should know exactly what they're doing, how we do wrong, and how we can do better. In fact, Bezos, who is very customer centric, said, like, the great thing about the customers, they're always dissatisfied. Yeah. They're always dissatisfied, and that gives us the opportunity to improve. Yeah. Now, first of all, there is very, very few leader who thinks like, it's great that my employees are always dissatisfied, so that we can, and I want to ask them constantly how they're doing. No, we're like, ask them like annual engagement surveys, ignore the results because, it's too much work to, I don't know. Everybody knows that, so nobody participates in those engagement surveys in the first place. And so that's like one of the shifts that I think we have to go through. In order to, and it's not this either, or it's not like, because we want to be, because it's the right thing. I mean, it might be also the right thing, but what I argue in the book is actually there's a lot of evidence to show that actually leads to business success and businesses being successful, especially in an environment where, transparency about corporate culture increases. There is more data about the employees that we can actually tailor it. There is more need for, if we think agility, it's the people who are agile. We actually need the people to come up with new ideas and better ideas. And then preferences are obviously changing. Once I'm like used to like a personalized experience when I watch TV or shows or order, I don't want to go then to the office and like it's a one size fits all environment. So I think like we actually need, and so that's how I try to convince executives that there is a real need to kind of change their mind.
Makes sense.
Well, there's actually an interesting comment here. Nobody wants to work anymore. So that's kind of fine. Those kids, that observation by Socrates that Plato put up, I think that's what you're referring to. Those darn kids. But look, the highlighting the connection between employee well-being and business outcomes. I mean, it's kind of like on one hand, people are like, why are you bringing your crap to work? I don't want to hear about it. And on the other hand, it's like, hey, we really need to take care of our employees and making sure they're doing okay. Where are the case studies and research findings that say, hey, this is a very important area?
Yeah, I think there are like, and I try to highlight a lot of amazing leaders. I should have highlighted George in that one as well, quite frankly, which do exactly that. So let me give you an example where it's maybe not that typical industry of like, a tech firm who does that. So what I found it interesting is one company, when Best Buy was in trouble, Hubert, and we can understand why, like Amazon was eating their lunch, their competitor were going out of business, and everybody thought like Best Buy is next. And the new CEO at that point, Hubert Joly, did a turnaround, and he got this advice that, in the short run, if you want to maximize your profit, you just fire people, you squeeze more out of your workforce. And he said not to do that. He decided, no, our people are critically important for customer satisfaction. They actually know a lot about what's going wrong. And I'm doing a very human-centric turnover. So they actually worked this first week. He worked in a store and tried to figure out like what is actually going on. Why are they so miserable? And that then reflects on the experience of the customer. And he found like small things that just went wrong. One thing he thought we found out, they cut a little bit before, they cut like some discounts the employees will get to buy gadgets. Now, if you think the ideal Best Buy employee is a gadget freak, loves gadgets,
of course,
try something out, and then there's like, Ray comes in like, Ray, I just experienced that. It's like super cool, or like, this really sucks. I had it for a while, and like, I would not go there. So they cut that benefit. While in fact, that's not only motivating for them, also created the right selection of people in the store. So he restored that. He was did a little listening session. He actually didn't fire many people and did a turnaround, which was like unbelievable. I mean, I would not have betted on Best Buy at that point. And they not only survived, they actually thrived. And there are a bunch of those almost in every industry, companies that go a different route or do it really put employees first in a way that really motivates. Like I think there is a lot of wrong understanding what employee centricity means. Like kind bar and yoga classes and massage chairs.
Oh wait, I thought that's what we were talking about.
Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, I call those ping pong table solutions. But there are many ping pong table solutions which sound like employee centric, but actually don't get at the heart of.
Come on, a good Stiga solves everything. A good Stiga.
Well, I say like, let's say. The problem with ping pong tables or whatever, kombucha taps or whatever it is, there are two problems. One is, let's say it's the kicker. Let's say if you're a ping pong table, you're innovative like hell.
Yeah.
Every company gets a ping pong table. It costs like a cheap one is like $200, tiny room. There's no competitive advantage in that. But of course, the bigger problem is like there are very few. I wouldn't go like nobody, but I guess like very, very few join or leave a company because they have or don't have. The massage session or the free yoga classes.
Right. Definitely don't confuse perks with culture.
Yes,
definitely. The older you get, you realize that dry cleaning at work is cool, but that's not the reason I'm here.
Exactly.
Speaking of trying to determine stickiness, retention, there's definitely a war for talent, especially at the pace we're going with emerging tech. And we've talked a little bit about AI. We've talked about personalization and speed and intelligence, currencies that matter. My company, when I speak to development managers, the sense is that the average software developer is now producing above average. In fact, we've probably in production accepted and it passed our quality standards, millions of lines of code produced by AI. So as much as people thought software was eating the world, now AI is eating software. But the average developer is producing above average. Now your 10x engineers, we don't see incremental, at least not now, incremental improvement in their output. In fact, what we're doing is using the 10x engineers to fine-tune the models. And that's their superpower. So they're essentially becoming virtual mentors and coaches for the average developer. My question to you is, will AI ultimately serve the employee advantage in that we all agreed, and you made a comment, we're doing a poor job of managing and career pathing and growing and retaining and delivering joyful work to our population? Can managers, just like software developers, incrementally improve their ability to sense and respond, good or bad, so that you don't have to wait for your annual survey or your annual performance review? That's like dieting and exercising one day a week or one day a year and hoping you're healthy. Can we create and lean into this technology and really gain an employee advantage because of the level of visibility we could have with software?
Yeah, absolutely. And I tried through the book to talk about like how technology can enhance those motivators. So let's talk about one particular motivator. So I have four, but like one of the ones that are critical is what I call like just right tasks, or it's in psychology term, it would be competence. People are extremely motivated when they have the exact right task matched to their skills. When they're stuck or when it's boring, that's demotivating. When they're overwhelmed and not trained properly, and the task kind of doesn't match their skills, that's also very demotivating. Now, over time, obviously, once I master a task, it became from just right to boring, and now I have to move on to something else. And then I then tell my executives, now what you now need to do, you just need to, for every of your team members, figure out what's their just right tasks, match them with the right tasks, and constantly update. And then they look at me as if I have like 7 heads. Like, yeah, good luck. It's impossible to do. I mean, how can I do that? I have a team of like 30 or 50 or even 5 is like hard. And I say, yeah, it is actually hard. But doesn't it sound a little bit like an AI task? Doesn't it sound a little bit like, when we think Netflix, they try to find out what is Ray normally watching, and then and Ray is watching, and now assuming nature documentaries. He loves nature documentaries. So they show him more nature documentaries, and voila, you watch like dramas, and they show more dramas. Now, after a while, Ray gets bored with nature documentaries and watches dramas, and then they switch and so forth. So AI can actually help do that job. And like companies are now employing like AI-powered tool, like internal marketplaces that do exactly that. So like MasterCard, I'm writing a case about them, uses a technology that brings those matches kind of the skills of the employees and the ambition level to projects, and then they can work like a couple of months or weeks on a project. It then updates kind of the database, and I then worked on a social media project in Switzerland because I happen to know Switzerland somehow and are interested in that. The technology then knows, now Stephan knows a little bit more about that, and then the matches get better and better. We collect more data, and now that helps the manager. He or she probably still has to do the listening, personalized meeting to figure out but the technology augments the leaders in providing those just right tasks.
You're 100%. Your thesis is 100% aligned with what my company's doing. So fast forward 12 months from now, we'll have 1 billion agentic AI active digital. I'll call it digital colleagues, but in order to create this agentic AI layer across your business, you have to match skills to tasks. Because the first thing you have to do, and there's a 5-step process of activating an agent, and the first is the job to be done. So you have to understand the task at a precise level. And then you have to understand the data you need to access in order to do the task. And then you define a set of actions and then set of guardrails, things you don't want the agent to do, and then which channels you want to participate. There's a 5 building block structure to this, but it starts with skill to task matching. So this revolution of agentic AI in business will absolutely turbocharge what you've written about. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Ray.
And I think, and I
didn't
think
mean
there are
to
many
geek out on
ways.
agent AI, but
There are many ways of like how I mean, AI or technology can also destroy motivation in the most. If you think like surveillance technologies for remote workers, I mean that goes at the heart of like what I call a matter of trust or destroys this. But if we use it in the right way, it could augment work. It can actually make work more meaningful because. Quite frankly, if I never have to write another meeting summary, I'm a very happy camper. And then I can actually focus on what I'm supposed to be doing, like talking to people, having like, interpersonal relations, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So in the book, you also talk about, you do break this up into 3 chapters: how to humanize work, right? You talk about, employees and the customers, how to humanize work. And you also talk about the workforce of one. And I'm just curious, how do you customize employee experience, trying to solve the individual needs and at the same time deliver it across the organization as a culture? Because that's threading the needle in many cases, given policies, benefits, and advancements, and how you chart skills and talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you go back to about those skill matching or like those internal marketplaces, we could be hired in this exact same position and have a very different individualized, personalized experience. What we do and where we do it, we still probably work in the same team, but like on the margin, at least it starts to be more personalized as a result. Upskilling learning journeys. You can either do that top down, and that's kind of the one size fits all. From top, we're deciding who has to learn and do X, Y, and Z, or we can empower the employees kind of to find their own journey. And if you empower it, it almost by definition becomes very, very personalized. And then there is also, I sometimes call it like the old school personalization or low tech, which is like talking to individuals one-on-one. Like talking to you.
Talking.
What a novel idea.
Yeah, it's like blows my mind. Yeah, kids these days. Look, there is it's like talking to, and there is a couple of like interesting studies that I quote in the book as well, where this low tech approach of like talking to people, having feedback leads to not only more productivity, but as a result, it needs to actually more personalization because it is one-on-one. And then I adapt kind of how I treat you and what experience I provide. Yeah. And I think we're just at the very beginning where we could actually think much more, as you saw, like benefits, remote work, anything you can think under the sun, where we start to personalize the experience much more. And I think, as almost always, like in the research I'm doing, people only hate unequal outcomes if the process was unfair or they don't understand the process. If you have a fair process and I understand why Vala gets this and why Ray works in this way and I have something different, people are fine with that. If they don't understand, then they're obsessed. Like, what the heck? Why can Ray have like this amazing hotel room in Las Vegas and I'm stuck in New York City where it's like freaking cold right now? So why? And so, but if you understand kind of the difference, and that requires, back to George, that requires not only listening, but being very transparent, talking to people and being very clear why there are differences.
For those of us watching, in case you're wondering, Ray loves romantic comedies.
Yes, well, I'm Nice name.
Just putting it out there.
Get out of the public license. I don't want this.
Netflix would know.
Netflix knows I love Culinary Class Wars. It's the best game show ever.
Oh,
Anyways, Stephan Meier,
interesting.
author of The Employee Advantage, How Putting Workers First Helps Businesses Thrive. You can follow him on X at Meier_Steph. So thank you so much for being on the
Thank
show.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you're around.
Congrats on the book.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Wow. It's been a while, man. How have you been?
It's amazing how our guests just stimulate our thinking, energize us for the weekend to come and weeks to come after. Two extraordinary big thinking guests. Ray, do us a favor, summarize your learnings in 30 seconds. Two titans. Yeah.
Well, it's hard with two titans, but I can say when you're trying to figure out how to be a leader, other than the kindness piece, which is important, I think we really have to change the way we look at leadership. And it's going to change given the fact that we are about to see the biggest disruption. We had the age of the internet. We've now got the age of AI. And what it really means is how do humans make better decisions? And that's everything from the teamworks to what you're talking about, how you translate skills to decision making to agents. Well, it's also about when and where you insert a human, and that requires amazing leadership. And when we think about the employee advantage, what's important here is really, we've got to think about, like, does work change, right? How do we actually figure out this new workforce, right? I said this earlier, we've got 50-year-olds that are looking for jobs right now. We got 20-year-olds that don't have jobs. And that is only increasing from what we can tell. And that pace of change is going to require a very, very different way to motivate people and bring people to the workforce. And so I think we're going to learn from both of these great books. People are going to figure out what this is going to mean in the context for the age of AI.
It's amazing. Two spectacular authors. I think we're going to have 100 authors this calendar year on the show. In the next several weeks, maybe next one or two, Ray and I will have our 2024 list of our favorite books.
Ooh, breaking news.
Breaking news. And this is the only time Ray and I get into spirited discussions. We're mostly aligned, but last year it took many back and forths before we could agree on the final list. Your input matters. So get on X, get on LinkedIn. If there's a book that you read as a result of a guest being on the show, we welcome your feedback. In fact, there are one or two extraordinary super fans of Disrupt who've already recommended their favorites. And I'm happy to say that there was a great intersection with their recommendations on at least my list. So next week, we're going to have Steve Check, president at Check Capital Management, as our guest. And we have Stefan Diefenbacher, author of How to Create Innovation, the ultimate guide to proven strategies and business models to drive innovation and digital transformation. Again, fantastic author. If you are an author aspiring to be a best-selling author, this is where you come and talk about it. So thank you for watching. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.